Hello everyone, Mr. Hadley here. Happy Friday. I hope you've all had a great week so far. I am really excited today because we have another visiting artist. She is an artist who lives in Maine. Some of you may or may not recognize her. I'm going to follow along with the video. Without further ado, here is our visiting artist for today.
Well, hi there, Stevens Brook students. My name is Mrs. Grigsby, and I'm going to be the guest artist today for Mr. Hadley. Now, you may not know me, but a lot of your parents might know me, or even older brothers and sisters, because I used to work at Stevens Brook for 29 years in the very same art room that Mr. Hadley teaches you art. So today we're going to do a little lesson, and we're going to be architects. If you would like to draw along, you'll need paper, a black Sharpie, and crayons. Now, if you don't have a black Sharpie, you can use a pencil or any thin marker, that's okay. And paper, any kind, any size of paper is fine, but bigger is probably better. So, what is an architect? An architect is an artist who designs buildings. Now, in the old days, an architect would have to be a very, very good artist. They drew lots and lots of pictures of the inside of the building and the outside of the building from all different perspectives. Here's a drawing of an inside of a room that is done to make it look like it's three-dimensional, even though it's just a drawing. That's called perspective. We're not going to be doing perspective today. We're just going to be thinking about the creativity involved in designing buildings. So nowadays, architects will mostly use computers. They don't do a lot of the hand drawings, but they still have to be really creative people because they have to think about how something is going to look before it ever gets built. In architecture, there's a lot of different kinds of elements, and we're going to learn about a couple of them today. And the first one is called an arch. So an arch, as you can see, is just a door or window that's round at the top. And we're going to use some arch doors or windows in our building today. And the second one is called a column. A column is kind of like a post thing that on the outside of a building is usually holding up like a porch or something. And so to draw a column is very easy. You're just going to draw two straight lines. And usually the top and the bottom of the column is a little more fancy. Sometimes it's just little steps. Sometimes it's little designs carved into them, like so. Here's some samples of some columns, different kinds of columns. There's many different kinds. And this also shows some of the really fancy tops of columns. Often they're carved in if it's made out of stone or if it's made out of wood, which most of the columns around here are made out of wood. So let's look at a few buildings here. I don't know if you can you see this building? These two buildings? And do you see any arched doors or windows there? Oh, I think you do. And there's even some columns, I don't know if you can see them, but they're small, right next to the door. What about this one? No arched doors or windows, but look at those columns. This is a very, very common kind of building in the South. This one is actually a drawing that I did of a building right here in Bridgeton. You see those arched windows? Especially like up here and these arched windows. And there's even an arched door over here. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Okay, now we're ready to create our building. Now when you're thinking about buildings, you want to think about shapes, and probably the shapes that you already know how to draw. I'm going to show you my building, but I want you to think about your own building. Be creative. So I'm going to start out with a big rectangle right in the middle of my paper. And my roof is going to be a triangle. Now my building is going to be like a town hall or something, so I'm going to make a little clock in this, like a clock tower. Now, it looks like a pretty tall, skinny building right now, but I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to make a straight line out, and an angle line over, straight line back, and the same thing on the other side. My building is going to be symmetrical. Now, in case you don't know what symmetrical means, that means it's exactly the same on both sides. I'm going to make another straight line, and the same thing on this side. So now I need to think about where I'm going to put columns and arch windows. So I'm going to start with a trapezoid right here, and that will be the roof of my porch. So I'm going to put my columns right here to support my porch. And since my drawing is kind of small, I'm not going to bother with the fancy decorations. And I'm going to make an arched door on my building. Sometimes arched doors are divided in half, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put in some steps. All right, and now I'm going to add some arch windows. And of course, if I have 3 on this side, I have to have 3 on this side if my building is symmetrical. All right, and maybe I want to have, let's see, a couple up here. And maybe all of my windows aren't going to be arched windows, so maybe I'll have some that are just normal rectangular windows. And let's see, maybe I'll have a little decoration between my first story and my second story. Maybe these are all bricks. And let's see, am I done? Well, I think I'll have some more windows down here, because nobody wants to be in a room without a window. Okay, well, right now my building is floating, so I need to put a line over here for the ground and over here, and I have a little room here. I could make a tree. And maybe I'll add a sidewalk. So the sidewalk is going to come at an angle. Remember, like I showed you on this drawing here, that it shows that when you go farther away, things get a little smaller. Now, I'm ready to color my drawing. We're going to do something a little special with our coloring. We're going to do something called texture. Now, most of you probably know what texture is, but in case you don't, it's the way things feel. And in art, we usually talk about sort of a rough or bumpy texture. So I happen to have some little texture plates here, which are really fun. You probably don't have these at home, but I'll tell you in a minute what you can do at home. So I'm going to take my texture plate, I'm going to put it behind my building, and just color this in with the crayons. Can you see the texture showing up? And, you know, I may want to use a different texture somewhere else on my building. I'm going to try this one. Let's see what this one looks like. Oh, that's a fun texture, don't you think? Okay, so I'm not going to finish my building, but for you to get some texture in your house, what you can do is take your drawing and go around your house and make sure your parents are okay with this, but you're going to find some textures in your house. Like maybe there's a rug that has texture, or a wicker chair, or maybe some of your toys even have texture on them, and you can use those behind your drawing to color it. Okay, so that's our drawing. Now, if you're really excited about architecture, I have a couple of other suggestions. You could take all your Legos and make some buildings out of them instead of what you usually make. Or, and again, with adult supervision, you could find a bunch of boxes and toilet paper rolls and tape them together and make a big building and draw on the windows. Go crazy with it, with adult supervision, of course. I have one more challenge for you, for those of you who are really into architecture, and that is a little scavenger hunt. Let me show you. We live in the town of Bridgeton, which actually has a lot of really cool buildings. So, here is my challenge for you. You can either take a picture of this with your phone, or you can stop the video and write it down. So next time you're out in Bridgeton, you can either drive around or you can walk around. See how many buildings you can find with arched doors or windows. See how many buildings you can find with columns that are the rounded ones, not the square ones. And here's my bonus ones. These are a little harder. To find a house with 2 triangle windows. You will find it if you look hard enough. And a building that has dentals. Dentals are these little, they look like kind of like teeth underneath the roof of a building. And they could be under a roof like this or a flat roof. The last one is to find a building that has this sort of brick decoration around an arch windows. So there you go. Good luck. Have fun with this challenge. And I would love to see your drawings, boys and girls. If you could send them to Mr. Hadley, maybe I would get to see them. It was great to be with you today. And have fun with architecture. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Mrs. Grigsby for being my visiting artist for today. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for the lesson. I know I had a good time with it. This is my drawing from her lesson. I was able to find a few materials to add texture to my drawing. For this part of the building, I found this kind of red netting, and then I used an orange crayon to color that. For this part, I used a dry sponge, and it was good that it was dry because it wouldn't work if it was wet. I put these materials behind the paper and used the crayon to kind of rub over the materials, which is not unlike a other lesson that was taught here before, the leaf rubbing art. For the last part of the building right here, for the purple part, I found a placemat and then I put it under the paper. And for me, I think the purple is the most interesting. I really like what the placemat did. So this is my drawing. And again, thank you so much to Mrs. Grigsby for teaching us more about architecture, perspective, and texture. That was awesome. I hope you all have a great weekend. Look for another video this coming Monday. I will see you all then. Bye.